Good day, my dear learners. How are you? I am your teacher, Mr. Kelly Thomas B. Tadena, from Maslog National High School, DepEd Division of Danao City. You can contact me or send me an email at kellythomas.tadena@deped.gov.ph. If this is your first time to visit my YouTube channel, I am inviting you to subscribe and please also click the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a new video. And also, do not forget to share this video to your classmates or to your friends. For Philippine Politics and Governance, Lesson 7, the Executive Department. According to Alexander Hamilton, energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is essential to the protection of the community against foreign attacks. It is not less essential to the steady administration of the laws, to the protection of property against those irregular and high-handed combinations which sometimes interrupt the ordinary course of justice, to the security of liberty against the enterprises and assaults of ambition, of faction, and of anarchy. So what is our content standard? For this lesson, the learners demonstrate an understanding of the historical background of Philippine democratic politics, the executive, the legislative, the judiciary, and decentralization, and local governance. Performance standard. The learner shall be able to explain the roles of different political institutions. There are learning competencies. First, explain the roles and powers of the Philippine President. Second, analyze how contemporary Philippine presidents exercise their powers. And lastly, critique the Philippine President's exercise of power. The executive branch of the government is one of the most powerful branches because it can act independently and can manipulate the Congress and influence the judicial branches of government. Moreover, the executive practices its executive power to manage all the affairs of the government and is crucial in shaping the policy of the state. In political language, there are two types of executives. The first, nominal executive, who is in charge of the ceremonial duties, and the second one is the actual executive, who is in charge of government functions. In order to understand the executive branch, it is imperative to consider the two types of government and how they differ from each other. So may I invite you, the table, distinguish or distinctions between the president and parliamentary systems. So we have the following criteria. First criterion, relationship with executive, relationship with Congress, functions, relationship with judiciary, and the last criterion, removal process. So let's go back to the first criterion. For the relationship with executive, for the presidential system, the president is assisted by the vice president as member of his cabinet. While for the parliamentary system, the prime minister by his deputies and by the monarch are endorsed him or her. So what are the relationship with Congress? For the presidential system, there's a separation of powers between the executive and legislative. While for the parliamentary system, there's a fusion of powers between the executive and legislative departments where decisions are shared by both. For the functions, for the presidential system, manage its actual and nominal functions. For the parliamentary system, the prime minister by his deputies and by the monarch who endorsed him or her. For the relationship with judiciary, the power of the president to appoint members of the Supreme Court, that is for the presidential system, while for the parliamentary system, independence of the judiciary from Congress. For the removal process, the president is removable only by impeachment, that is for the presidential system, While for the parliamentary system, the Prime Minister is removable by veto of no confidence. What are the different powers of the President? The powers of the President are the following. First power is the appointing power. When we talk about appointing power, this is the power of the President to appoint members of his or her cabinet, ambassadors, members of the armed forces in terms of ranks, and also the power to give special functions to members of his party. Another power of the President is the military power. In Article 7, Section 18 of the 1987 Constitution, the President is the Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces where he may suspend the habeas corpus and or declare martial law in case of rebellion and invasion when the public safety requires it. Another power of the President is the pardoning power. The power of the President to grant amnesty, reprieves, and pardons in accordance to the law, as well as the consent of the Congress. Another power is the policy power, because by virtue, the authority being the President is the main source of all policies assisted by his or her cabinet. Another power is the diplomatic power. The President is the main source of the foreign policy of the state, such as dealing with other states. We have also the legislative power. The President has also the power to make decrees, order, letter of instructions, which can be enacted as special laws of the land. He may also order to suspend the writ of habeas corpus, causing declaration of martial law. The judicial power. The President may appoint justices and associate justices of the Supreme Court prior to the recommendation of the Judicial and Bar Council. And other powers of the President. The President can make agreements with other countries in behalf of the Republic of the Philippines. He can propose also through the Department of Budget and Management the annual budget or the fiscal policy of his or her administration. Article 7 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution for the Executive Department, Section 1, the executive power shall be vested in the President of the Philippines. When we talk about the executive power, this refers to the power to administer laws, carry them into practical operation, and enforce their due observance. Section 2, no person may be elected President unless he is a natural-born citizen of the Philippines, a registered voter, able to read and write, and at least 40 years of age on the day of the election, and a resident of the Philippines for at least 10 years immediately preceding such election. So it is very important to take note all of these qualifications for or to become a President of the Republic of the Philippines. For Section 3, there shall be a Vice President who shall have the same qualifications and term of office and be elected with and in the same manner as the President. He may be removed from office in the same manner as the President. Section 4. The President and the Vice President shall be elected for a term of 6 years. The President shall not be eligible for any election. No person who has succeeded as President and has served as such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time. No Vice President shall serve for more than 2 consecutive terms. And if there are contests or protests for the President and the Vice President in the election, it is the Supreme Court shall be the sole judge relating to the election of the President and Vice President. Now, talking about the term of office, this refers to the period during which an officer may claim to hold the office as a matter of right. For the President and Vice President, they are given 6 years. And for the tenure office, this refers to the period during which the incumbent holds the position. Section 8. In the case of death, permanent disability, removal from office, or resignation of the President, The vice president shall become the president to serve the unexpired term of the president. So let's say the president has 2 years remaining term. Then the vice president will become the president and will serve the 2 years term. In case of death, permanent disability, removal from office, or resignation of both the president and vice president, the president of the Senate, in the case of his inability, the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall then act as president until the president or vice president shall have been elected and qualified. Section 9. Whenever there is vacancy in the office of the vice president during the term for which he was elected, the president shall nominate a vice president from among the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Section 10. The Congress shall, after the vacancy in the offices of the President and Vice President occurs, will convene and enact a law calling for special election to elect a President and Vice President. Section 13. The President, the Vice President, the members of the Cabinet shall not, unless otherwise provided in the Constitution, hold any other office or employment during their tenure. They shall not practice any other profession, participate in any business, or be financially interested in any contract with the government because this will lead to conflict of interest. The spouse and relatives by consanguinity or affinity within the fourth civil degree of the President shall not during his tenure be appointed as members of the constitutional commissions or the office of the ombudsman as secretaries or heads of bureaus or offices. Therefore, appointing of relatives within the fourth civil degree of the President is strictly not allowed. Section 16. The President shall nominate and, with the consent of the Commission of Appointments, appoint the heads of the executive departments, ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, or officers of the armed forces from the rank of colonel or naval captain, and other officers whose appointments are vested in this Constitution. Section 17. The President shall have control all the executive departments, the bureaus and offices, and the President shall also ensure that the laws be faithfully executed. Section 18. The President shall be the Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces of the Philippines, and whenever it becomes necessary, he may call out such armed forces to prevent or suppress lawless violence, invasion, or rebellion. He may suspend the privilege of the law of the writ of habeas corpus or place the Philippines or any part therefore or thereof under martial law. Talking about martial law, the restrictions of the President's power to declare martial law. The first one is there must be an invasion or rebellion, and public safety requires the proclamation or suspension. Therefore, absence of these will not allow or will not make the President to declare martial law. The duration shall not exceed 60 days unless extended by the Congress. So if there is still a need to have martial law that is beyond 60 days, it will be the Congress who will make the necessary action. The President must submit a report to Congress. It could be in person or in writing within 48 hours after the declaration or suspension. So take note of that. That is, must be within 48 hours after the President has declared martial law or has suspended martial law. The declaration may be revoked by majority vote of all the members of the Congress voting jointly. So, the declaration of martial law by the President may be revoked if voted by the majority of all members of the Congress. And the Supreme Court may inquire into the sufficiency of the factual basis of the proclamation, whether for the declaration or suspension of the martial law. Section 19. The President may grant reprieves, commutations, and pardons. He shall also have the power to grant amnesty with the concurrence of a majority of all the members of the Congress. So in order for us to better understand the terms, we have here the definition of the following terms. For the reprieve, it is the postponement of the execution of a death sentence. For the commutation, it is reduction of the sentence imposed for a lesser punishment. And for the pardon, it is an act grace which exempts the individual from the punishment the law inflicts for a crime he has committed. Remission, it is a condonation of the financial obligation and the return of properties confiscated by reason of the omission or the commission of the offense and conviction of the offender. While amnesty, it is an act of a sovereign power granting a general pardon for a past offense usually granted in favor of a certain class of persons which have committed crimes of political character. When one is granted amnesty, it is like he has not committed a crime. Now let's discuss now Section 20. The President may contract or guarantee foreign loans on behalf of the Republic of the Philippines with the prior concurrence of the Monetary Board of Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and subject to such limitations as may be provided by the law. For example, in the months of March, we experienced the global pandemic. Hence, the government applied for a loan in order for the government to provide financial assistance to those people who have lost their job. Section 21. No treaty or international agreement shall be valid and effective unless concurred in by at least 2/3 of all the members of state. Section 22. The President shall submit to the Congress within 30 days from the opening of every regular session, as the basis of the General Appropriations Bill, a budget of expenditures, and sources of financing, including receipts from existing and proposed revenue measure. Section 23. The President shall address the Congress at the opening of its regular session. He may also appear before it at any time. And Section 23 provides an opportunity to the President to give information on the state of the nation. And it is commonly called as the SONA, or the State of the Nation Address, and to recommend such measures to the legislator as he may deem necessary and proper. And that's all for our discussion for Article 7, Executive Department for Philippine Politics and Governance. Please do not forget to subscribe and click the notification bell and share this with your friends. Thank you very much and see you next time.
Mga kadasig, do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell button for notifications and like this video. Daghang salamat!